Hi everybody, really excited to give you a chance to check out Gravana, the online database for teachers and for students. I'm going to take you through what the student online database looks like, and I will also show you the teacher online database. So the very first thing you're going to see is our website at gravana.org. If you want to watch a cool commercial, you can go there. But if you want to log in, you're going to click up here and hit the login. Many of your students will try to log in here, which is not a good idea, but they can log in there. When they get here, you're able to put in your teacher account and or your student account. So I am going to log in as our favorite teacher, Joel, here, and we'll log in. In theory, we will log in. I'm going to click Remember Me. There we go. And right away, it's going to take you to a splash page. Here on the splash page, you see a lot of the information that you have for all of your students. You are going to be able to see some of your celebratory students and some of the students that you maybe should check in with. And you're going to be able to see an overall barometer for all of your classes, and then you'll have a different barometer for each individual class. The barometer looks at student quiz score, writing prompt score, pacing, and attempts at the quiz and attempts at the writing prompt. So while a student maybe got a 100% on the quiz, perhaps it took them 2 or 3 or 4 times to pass the quiz. And so you're kind of getting a good idea as to how your students are doing. From this page, you're going to be able to access a lot of things. Up here in the classes, that's what takes you to your classes splash page. Here in the courses tab, you are able to access every single lesson that Gravana has to offer. If I were to click view in level 1, you will see that all of the lessons are here, and you have made available to you the student handout, the teacher handout, the PowerPoint, and the practice. You can go back to courses, and then you get a good view at what that level looks like, and you can see for sure that every single level builds onto the next one. So you can see level 2 here is mostly the 7th grade standards, and it builds on combining clauses. At the end of this, you're making compound complex sentences. If we go to level 3, you will see the very first lesson is combining clauses. So if students have not done level 2 prior to doing level 3, this first lesson works as a really great review. You can start your students in level 3, and once they start in a certain level, they can work through the entire thing. But perhaps I want to go back and say, my students are really struggling with this. I want to backfill with some lessons. Here's where you can access this. You don't have the online database for this, but you can certainly say, I want to do this lesson with my students, and you can use the paper copy for that. You can see that you have access to the student handout, which the students have, which includes all of the information that you go over. It often has some tangible practices that the kids could work on. Maybe they can draw on that with their iPad, or you can print it off. There's always a check yourself, which provides a great opportunity for a large group formative assessment. And then the students always have the writing prompt. The writing prompt goes over the context and the prompt. It shows them the writing requirements as well as the grammar requirements. And we always ask them to highlight those grammar requirements for ease of grading. When you hit back to the courses, you're also going to see that you can access the teacher handout. The teacher handout gives you all of your objectives. It talks about the standards that are addressed in this lesson. It gives every lesson, it talks about the anticipatory set, which is about a 5 to 10 minute activity that gets the kids up and gets them excited and kind of introduces the grammar concept in a different way. And then it has the learn, where it can talk about all the different information. This particular lesson is pretty easy, so I'll show you probably a harder one if we go to gerunds, the learn portion. Maybe you don't know what a gerund is. Maybe you're not for sure what this is. And there, it's going to explain it to you as a teacher. It's going to give you different ways that you can practice with the kids, different requests or recommendations for quizzing. It looks at how the students can apply that in their writing prompts. And then every teacher lesson plan offers extensions and modifications. Ways to break it down for students. Perhaps you went through and taught the lesson and you have a couple that still don't get it. Here's some suggestions to how to break it down. And then maybe you have a couple high flyers who are flying through it and need to just go deeper rather than going faster. You can always extend it. In the teacher handout, you have access to the student handout, and then you also have access to practice problems. These are practices you could print on paper and work with your students. There's always 2 practices. There's also 2 quiz sets that are multiple choice as well. And lastly, where would we be without a suite? Well, that one has 3 quizzes. The answer key. So you have answers to everything as well. Every single course, you also have access to the PowerPoint. You can download these. All of these documents you can download. You can print to PDF. You can even embed it if you're using like Google Classroom, if you have your own things that you are using for your technology. We ask you don't put these on public domains or public websites of that nature. And lastly, you have access to all of the practice problems. We have over 100 practice problems in every single lesson. And so with the practice problems, you can click on it, submit it. Oh, it's going to tell you it's wrong. And so you'd be able to maybe use this as your bell ringer with students, talk about why that's wrong, and then go through the next questions. So that's everything that's in for the courses, and you have access to every single lesson that we have. So basically right here you have grammar lessons that cover from 4th grade standards all the way up to the 12th grade standards. Our additional documents are all just those extra things that we think we sometimes need. Our baseline assessments would assess if they're proficient and mastering at that level. So the level 1 baseline assessment is a great pre-assessment to see how much of this they already know, and it's also a great post-assessment to see did they learn all of this material. A lot of teachers use this as their SLO. We have one for each level. The checkpoints are kind of unit or groups of checkpoints. After about 3 or 4 lessons, we throw a checkpoint in there so that teachers can use that as an opportunity to catch students up who maybe aren't quite ready to move on to the next lesson, give chances for students to work on their writing prompts, and there's also some opportunities for some a summative assessment that kind of reviews over all of those things. So a great checkpoint to look at is the level 3's checkpoint 2, where you've just learned active voice, passive voice, subjunctive mood, indicative mood, and shifts in mood. That's a really hard group of lessons. So this is a chance to take a moment and look at who knows what's going on. There's an anticipatory set in many of these as well. It helps you split the students up into groups to help so you can kind of identify who needs more help versus who's ready to do something different. It gives you activities for those guys to do while you get everybody caught up. There's a handout in these checkpoints as well that kind of reviews for students, and there's a checkpoint quiz. So you could kind of use this as a summative assessment. And that's all in the additional documents tab. We have something new for us this year. It's the macros tab. Here is where you're going to ease the grading even further with Gravana. Is sometimes we find that when we're grading papers, depending on the prompt, you might be writing the same thing over and over and over again. And so here you can create a macro that you can just click a button and it's going to go in. So here's one that we already have created. It says highlight. You need to highlight your grammatical elements. Update. And so now when I give my feedback to students, I'm going to click this button and it's going to type that sentence in for me right away. So I'm going to head back to my classes. And for each of your classes, you're going to have a view button that's going to help you drill a little further into that class. You can see all my students. They're all in different levels and they're all in different places. You can see that Meg Ryan's been passing and doing well on hers. Olivia Olinger hasn't even started, which is why she's over here in the red. If we click on Elena, you can see all of her past quizzes. You can see that we're waiting for her to grade this, and I'll go into that. And she right now is locked out of a quiz. And so what you're able to do here is when you click on that student, you can click unlock, and then that's going to reset all of her quizzes. You can also exempt a student. A student has to take 2 quizzes online. We believe that every student, even students who need modifications, can still try to take the online version as practices. If anything, can be a great practice. But we do know that sometimes we have to modify assessments for students with needs, and so you're able to exempt them after they've tried 2 attempts. So I'm going to go ahead and unlock her so that when we use her as a practice student, we're going to be able to see you can see what that looks like for her. If we click on Meg Ryan, we can see that we've exempted this quiz. And so here, that's what it looks like after you exempted it. So she didn't have to take the quiz again until she passed it, and she was able to move on to the writing prompt. If we click on June, June's progress right now is that she's done with, she's ready to move on to an active lesson is 1.6. We're waiting for her to finish that writing prompt. So one of the things we're going to show you as a student, some of the things that are pretty awesome. We believe that the whole process to make these grammar skills work is that you make them master the material and then they apply it in writing. And so the mastery I'll show you with students is through those quizzes that are online. Let's go to Meg and see where she is. So you can see here she's already done this. If I push this green button, I'm able to see the feedback that I got back from my teacher. This was the student score. So students score their own rubrics, their own writing prompts is blue. Teacher score is yellow, and then where we matched up is green. And then I have to review this. So I'm going to go back and not review it, and I'm going to push continue. And it's going to stop me. It's going to say, hey, you need to look at that feedback. We as educators give our students strong feedback, and it's important that they look at that. So for her to move on, she cannot click continue until she clicks on that green button, and then she marks it as reviewed. Now she's able to continue. Every student starts their lesson. They can see the objectives, the descriptions, and the standards. So then they click start the lesson. And because she's already done so much of it, it takes her right to the writing prompt. Now I'm going to go back a little bit and show you what this whole thing looks like for her from the student view. The first thing that students see is the video or the PowerPoint, which did not want to come up for me. But then the next thing they can look at is the student handout. They have access to this, and just like you as a teacher, they can download it or they can print it. Then they can click next. Here's where they can practice as much or as little as they think they need. And then when they're ready to go onto the quiz, they hit next. Here you can see all of their quiz attempts. Anytime that a student starts the quiz and does not finish it, and I'll show you an example of that, it gives them a score of 0, and they tells them that it did not finish. They get to take 5 quizzes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, before it locks them out. The first quiz is 10 questions, as it talks about here. You are required to make an 80% on the quiz. And so if they're not being able to show that mastery, we don't want them to move on until they have the concrete skills mastered. The first quiz is 10 questions, multiple choice. But if they're not prepared, the next quiz is 15, then 20, then 25, and lastly 30 questions. After that, after they've gotten to the 30 question quiz and failed it, they get locked out. They need to come talk to their teacher and let them know, hey, I'm locked out. That's a great opportunity to reteach and diagnose the misunderstandings that the students have. Once they click the next button, students are able to see the context, the prompt, the writing requirements, and the grammar requirements. And then they're able to put that writing prompt in here. This is my writing prompt. I am a fantastic learner and can't wait to get better. And so the students in here, they can highlight, they can make the text different colors. They can do anything that you can really do in a Word document. Insert pictures, link things. So this can be fun. The only thing is that Gravana does not save the writing prompt in here. So if a student doesn't submit it, then it's lost. So we often recommend that students write this in like a Google Doc or a Word document and then paste it in here when they're ready and then click submit. After they click submit, this is a new feature for us this year. We ask the students to be metacognitive and reflect on their learning. Did I hit the grammar requirements? Do I have everything? So they can come down here and they can look at the grammar requirements, they can look at the writing requirements, and they can grade themselves. They can just click on here and say, oh, that's where I think I am. And I'm going to try and save and close, but I need to indicate who graded this rubric. sometimes you might have a kid who maybe mom or dad wants to review it. You might have a friend review it, and you can say, oh, Paul reviewed this for me. And I'm going to save and close. After that, I'm able to move on. I don't have to wait for the teacher to grade me yet. I'm going to click start, and we can start the next lesson. I do want to show you what it looks like when a student takes a quiz. So here's the quiz is not started yet. We're going to start it, and I'm going to just bust through this one. Because if I actually took it, it is moods, and so I would take me probably 15 minutes. So if they don't pass it, it tells them how many questions, how many they got right, what's their percent. It gives them the opportunity to try this quiz again, but we also think, hey, maybe you need to practice some more. Maybe you look at the handout. So because I think I maybe can get it this time, I'm going to try again. Let's start the quiz. I'm going to take a couple. And then, oh, the bell rang. I'm going to log off, or I'm going to push the back button. Oh, I don't know this question. I'm not doing very good. Click the back button. Okay. Well, if I go back to next, you can see here that I have a 0, and I did not finish that quiz, and so that took an attempt for me. And so that's what goes on there. I want to take a second and log in as Elena. Maybe I'll log in as Elena. All right, so here you can see that she needs to resubmit one. And so I'm going to push continue, and here again, you have to resubmit that before you can move on. I'm going to come on in here. I am going to submit it, and then here's the teacher feedback. I'm going to submit this. I'm going to grade myself. Mom did this one. She gave me 5s because she loves me. Save and close. Please finish the rubric. Oh, there we go. And so save and close. I think I got this right. And then I can continue on to the next level as well. I do want to show you one quick thing as a teacher. When you log in as the teacher again, now that we have some of those writing prompts in there, you're going to see that I can grade these in 2 ways. The quickest and easiest way is to click grade here, and I'll show you that in just 1 second. But you can also come in, click onto the student, and then you can grade them from this artifact as well. I'm going to go back to my classes splash page because I think this saves so much time that you can grade this. I can look at it. Here I can click my macros. Oh, buddy, you did not highlight. You need to use complete sentences. Start your sentences with a capital letter and review for your hook. And then I, as a teacher, I'm going to say, oofta doofta, this is not looking so great. And then this automatically tells me what their score is out of 5. Now, if I were to give this student a 1 or a 2, when I send this back, when I push save and close, this is going to send it back to the student. If they get a 2 or a 1, it automatically sends back to the student that they need to redo this, they need to work on stuff. Now I'm going to click Save and Next, and here I get another one. And so here I'm going to say, gosh, this looks pretty good, but actually I think 5s, but you know what? They're not all correct. Not all your grammar are correct. They have a 5 right now, which is a good score, but I want them to fix this because that's the whole point of this. And so I'm going to push force resubmit for that student. And so when that student logs in, they have to go back and do this. And it would be good for me to put into feedback what they need to work on. Your grammar elements are not all correct. Check them. And then I can push save and close. And this usually takes you to the last student that you graded, so you can just navigate back to classes. And then, of course, you've deserved that trophy because you're all done grading. That's awesome. A couple things I'll show you quickly before we end is remember that we are COPA certified and we are compliant with that. We also have a privacy policy. If you click on your name up here, here's where you could change your password. Most importantly, this is where you can report an issue. So when you click issue, It takes you to a form that you can tell us all about what your issue is, and this notifies us of any issues that you're seeing in your classroom. So that's everything with Gravana, you guys. We just are so excited to be in your classrooms. We're so excited to help you and to help make clear, confident communicators. We are open to any kind of feedback that you have. We want to make this year an awesome year for you, and we want to help you in any ways possible. So with that, we hope you have a great year. Don't ever hesitate to contact us, and carry on, grammar gurus.